the former gloating elements have now become primary victims. But now we cannot sit aside and say it's the chickens coming to roost, because if we ignore it in that corner, it's assuredly going to come here as well. So even just from a self-protective point of view, it's a common problem now. Yes. It's a national collective issue. And so again and again, people have said, let us come together and discuss this. Don't just sit there and think that it's something you can solve from Aso Rock. No, this now concerns even the lowest commoner citizen in this nation, because that lowest, that most junior, most impotent individual has become prime target. Yeah. So it's a collective issue. Yeah. And I'm not surprised, therefore, that some governors reach a point where they say, let us seek outside help. It's something which I've said also. I don't say mercenaries necessarily, but I'm saying that this has gone beyond a Nigerian problem. And instead of that, what do I hear? Somebody gets on the podium and says, the sovereignty of this nation cannot be challenged. Please, don't let's hear any more of that rubbish. The sovereignty of this nation is in the hands of the murdering herdsmen. The sovereignty of this nation has already been taken over by Boko Haram. It's been taken over by ISWAP. It's been taken over by those who absolutely do not even have the slightest respect for what is called national integrity. So why do we keep hearing this chorus? It's very depressing, really depressing.
And also, Governor Masari mentioned that he felt the northern elite were to blame largely for the resulting effects of insurgency, particularly in the north. Do you share that sentiment?
We, as I sit here, as we sit here, we are the problem of ourselves. The bandits are northerners. The insurgents, Boko Haram, those recruited in Nigeria are northerners, killing northerners. It's not a southerner killing any northern. So the issue of even competing with them, that certain things are done there, things are not done here, doesn't even arise yet. We value politics and position more than our people. I want you to propagate the fact that this issue of security should be off partisan politics. Because unless it is treated as off partisan politics, I am on the other side, I'm looking for your failure so that I cash on it. When you cash on it, the same failure is going to follow you.
Well, we must share some of the guilt for not taking things seriously enough. But definitely there are those who, on whose shoulders must be placed the primary responsibility. And that includes some former heads of state who refused to see this, to see the inevitability of what we're undergoing right now. But the Northerners, I'm very glad that Northern elite is now speaking. They're now speaking up boldly and practically. They're now taking measures, however, which they should have taken years ago. They move beyond the unbelievable policy of actually paying killers to stop killing. Remember, I don't want to mention names as not to seem to be, but some of them admitted that they were paying protection money to killers instead of dealing with that cancer, in the only way proper you can, which is excision. You just got to take out killers. Instead, they were giving them money. Now, let them continue giving them money now. I mean, you don't appease evil. And we're dealing, I'm not a theological person, but sometimes there's no other word, evil. We're dealing with the proliferation, the enthronement of evil in this society. And unfortunately, we have encouraged its manifestations, its proliferation, its entrenchment. So let them get away from this issue of the sovereignty. If you have to pay people to come and help us, then call them whatever you want. Please go ahead, because we reached that stage of desperation. But I would prefer a general mobilization in which people are trained, farmers especially, are trained to work with a hoe in one hand and the gun in the other, ready to protect their lives, their harvest, and the rest of us. We're not unique. History is full of those situations where people understand that it's unfortunate, it should never have happened, but we're now at a point where we cannot say we're going to the farm to pluck the fruits. You've got to go ready to defend the existence. I would like to see national mobilization. Let's be very practical.
Okay, let's talk about Amotekun and community policing. Are you encouraged by the pace at which that is unfolding? Would you recommend that a similar kind of outfit is unfolded across the nation, nationally?
Oh, too slow for me. You know, I've told them, you know, anytime you want us to come and assist, we'll come. Even if it's just on the ethical session, that as you are training them to defend us, we're also training them, training their minds, so that Amotekun does not become another Sars. Very important. Do everything together. And at the same time, all these states, I'd like them to come out. And I'm passing this message to those who have not yet launched their own Amotekun. If they don't hurry up, I will launch my own. I will ask for geriatric volunteers. Over 80 only.
My conjecture was that if change was to happen in Nigeria, it had to start from our diamonds, as the president termed them in his New Year's speech.
I wish to also use this occasion of New Year to reaffirm my commitment to the people of Nigeria, especially the youth who need our collective encouragement and support. In securing this nation, we need to secure the future of our youth.
But how are diamonds to shine if they're still stuck in the rough? Still looking to the way forward, we're in 2021, and since last year, or even before that, if you can imagine, people have been speaking of 2023. And again, we hear talks of zoning and even of an Igbo presidency. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just saying, for heaven's sake, let's get the best person for the job this time round. That we've experimented with very partial, very spotty result. And I know horse trading is part and parcel of politics. We can't help that. But let it take place within a well-defined zone of competence. That's all one can ask.
Well, it's still the first month in the year 2021, and although we don't need reminding, the clock is ticking towards 2023. Will our help come from zoning or even an Igbo presidency? Or restructuring? I put these questions to the professor. What would be your own view on restructuring? Do you feel that restructuring is enough to change the minds of people who are drawn to governance? Would somehow changing the structure alter the way people approach governance overall?
Oh no, it'll be too easy, I think, to blame all our ills on lack of restructuring. No, but definitely restructuring is part and parcel also of what should be the program of this nation. And people have said it, they use different expressions for it. Even those who say constitutional review, they have the back of their mind restructuring. But the present configuration, the present relationship of states to center, of state to state, the degree of fiscal economy, the degree of autonomy of security, of the responsibility for security in the state, even the right for states to say, listen, we've tried to be alone all this time, we want to merge. You know, economically, bureaucratically, and so on. We're just spending, wasting funds, we should go to development. Therefore, we want to be part of the other of that other state. We want to come together and pool our resources and so on. So restructuring is the potential is enormous. The potential for good is enormous, and I don't see why people are shying away from this necessity, because clearly the present structure is not working. The present structure of relationship of parts to the whole, center to the rest, and so is not working. It's become so evident, and even those who before at the beginning said, we don't hear about it, they want to secede and so on, they now understand, and they're changing their voice, and it's about time this government, or whoever is responsible, listen to this cry.
Looking to the way forward for Nigeria, and also remembering that we have talked about the youth as our diamonds, and then also recalling that what we've seen so far by way of their education, whether it's the ASU strikes or the calling off of the strikes, and more recently the threatened renewed strikes if their conditions are not met by government, what would you say is the cause of this cycle of strikes and threatened strikes, and what happens when the system of engaging with government or the administration is not working? What would you propose then?
Well, I made a drastic suggestion some years ago, and I have not moved away from it yet, that all of the universities, the tertiary institutions, should declare a year of cessation. Try and recover through what we call congregation, as you know the expression, which we meet together. It's like a general assembly of tertiary institutions for about a year, in which all institutions just close down. And then you meet, general assembly, representative of the workers, of the students, largely, of course, of faculty, because they are the real mainstay. Let's not about this. And, of course, representative of the government, but it's not the government going to run it. And then you decide exactly what kind of tertiary institutions you want. What should be the internal governing laws? What should be the disciplinary process? Actually said the reason for being. Yeah. Redefine it in relation to the realities of the world and also to practices elsewhere. I've come back to that position, that nothing else will save education at that level except a meeting, general assembly. During that period, the students will go and do their youth service, and that'll be, they get it out of the way, no matter what year. And when they come back, there'll be new university rules which are national, at least subscribing. I don't want to touch private universities, because that'll be a disaster. Just let them do their own thing, and when they have problems, they can go to court. But what I call the state-supported universities, state-owned universities, I think it's time that they really just sat back and said, okay, when you add together the amount of time that they closed down per year, over the past 10 years, what I'm saying to me makes more than sense. It's made more than sense years ago. But it was anticipating just where we are today. That after so many months negotiating and so on, suddenly I pick up the papers. I didn't read it. I just saw it. Oh no, not again, not again. Why cannot once and for all a solution be found? What is the problem with us in this country? What is so strange about our brain box that we cannot work out a lasting solution? I don't say mine is the best solution, but there has to be a holistic approach along either this line or another line. But we can't just continue like this. It's just making fools of ourselves.
There is no conversation that is complete, it seems, without acknowledging the presence of the uninvited guest, coronavirus. I sought to find out how the professor was weathering the storm.
In the past few days, there have been reports of new variants of the COVID-19 virus in South Africa and the United Kingdom. Viruses mutate over time. That's natural and expected. The UK has reported that this new variant transmits more easily The bottom line is that we need to suppress transmission of all SARS-CoV-2 viruses as quickly as we can. The more we allow it to spread, the more opportunity it has to change.
And then also, we can't escape what's been happening around us. COVID-19 has disrupted all that has, globally, it has caused a disruption globally. What do you feel the silver lining to the cloud of COVID-19 has been for us as a nation and for the world?
Well, what I'm hoping it will do for us is that we will sit back and think and say, there are certain forces, unpredictable, bigger than us, which throw us back on our haunches, which has the capacity, they have the capacity to totally disrupt all planning, and therefore it means that planning must take into consideration the possibility of such happening. I'm hoping that it even inserts in our minds the transience of power, you know, this power which we all struggle. Do we struggle for power just for ourselves, for our CV, or is it that we struggle for power to be armed with the authority to make changes? I'm just hoping it'll enable us to do some collective internal thinking. You know, as I was talking about power just now, my mind goes to what's happening in the United States.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing that.
So that we see that even the best, quote unquote, the best organized societies that we look at, the first world, second world, etc., they are all humbled by this phenomenon. Look at the UK, look at France, Italy. I was in Czechoslovakia not so long ago, and I looked at them and I said, do you know that we are handling this better in Nigeria? Can you imagine being proudly able to say something like that? But I had to. I said, look at you people. You don't seem to be aware that COVID is taking place. But of course, they've woken them. I just felt they were behind us. And so from that, we should know that events can happen which place all humanity on the same level. And therefore, we should learn internally to treat one another as beings on the same level of entitlement, of projection, of possibilities, of development of general relationship. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. And I must go back to Mr. Trump, but this is one individual who doesn't seem to be aware of that. And so when we look at that, then we look among ourselves and say, is this really what power is supposed to mean? You know? And then we get to the stage where we sue Trump for trying to steal African copyright, sit-tight syndrome. Can you imagine? Shameless man. You know? And then we say, we don't want to be like those ones, okay, except, of course, in the positive, where there are positives, okay, we'll take from them this, we'll take from them this, take from them this, but no, not that one. We don't want to be like the Musevenis of the world. We don't be like the Trumps of the world. All this is what I'm hoping COVID will take from COVID. Yeah. You know, so that next time COVID number 2 or whatever comes, we are readier. That's all.
I had planned to do a detour, but the professor went there first. And in the light of the tsunami that blew through Capitol Hill, all I can say is, I'm sure glad he did.
Let me be very clear. The scenes of chaos at the Capitol do not reflect a true America, do not represent who we are. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now.
I just wanted to express our friendship and our faith in the United States. What happened today in Washington, D.C. is not America, definitely. We believe in the strength of our democracies. We believe in the strength of American democracy.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt.
And then taking a detour to America and the current developments there. What would you say President Trump's legacy has been, both to America and to the world? Because clearly he has changed the dynamics of what we formerly used to see as the President of the United States and his role.
The United States, you know, has a history of lynching. I think if Trump is not careful, that culture will come back, but it won't be against the blacks in the South. It'll be against those who try to destroy the values of which America like to boast. That's legacy. The legacy is a warning to the rest of the world. A warning to the rest of the world that it is quite possible. You know, I don't know if you've seen the film The Manchurian Candidate.
Yes, I have.
You know it, yes. Each time I look at Trump, I say, the Manchurian Candidate may not be fiction after all, because this man seems to have dropped from a different planet, not even transported, sneaked in from another nation, no. I think he's from another planet entirely.
And yet he has his followership, quite a lot of them.
That's why when Biden won and people were coming to him and saying, good, this happened, I said, no. For me, it's still a tragedy that Trump could actually corner nearly half. It just shows that America is still mentally underdeveloped. That somebody like Trump can get away in America with as much as he has done so far, including actually persuading half of the electorate, nearly, to buy into his lies, into his treachery. Well, as I said from the very beginning, when I said I don't want to be part of that community, that's what I was talking about. That the very fact that Trump could even win an election in the States, in spite of his conduct, his pronouncements, during the campaigns, his xenophobia, his contempt for humanity, his fascism, let me just use that word, in spite of his blatant fascism, that he could have 50% over there, and could even have supporters in Nigeria. You know, there should be a state carved up to send to him, you know. Yes. There are people who are marching through the streets in his support. It just shows that there's still a lot of underdevelopment mental in the world.
Well, life can't be all about bad news, can it? I couldn't end the conversation without touching on Professor Soyinka's most recent offering, a piece of prose titled Chronicles of the Happiest People on Earth, over 500 pages long and 48 years since his last prose work, Seasons of Anomie, published in 1973. I was keen to know what had spurred this work of creativity.
And then to look on the bright side, I'd love to talk about the recent launch of your new book, Chronicles of the Happiest People on the Earth. What led to your finally releasing this book? Because apparently it's been 48 years in the pipeline, so to speak. What message do you feel it holds for us today?
Well, there's a criminal here. And it's... It's
quite a thick one.
It's something which had been inside me for years, as I've said that before, years and years. But of course, I've been able to take it out through essays, activism, through even plays. There's nothing new, really, you know, beyond saying that all the negatives are coming together, have come together to make us what we are today. That these are decades of negativities which have now taken us to this land. The full title, by the way, is Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People in the World. It got truncated during the usual process, but we put a long title about the land of the happiest people in the world. And I've been wanting to use the prose to go back to the prose form, which for me is not really my métier. I'm basically a theater person, as you know. And finally,
and
and poetry, yes. It just got to the stage where I knew if I didn't make a beginning, I would probably go bonkers. Now, some people think I am already, anyway, but never mind that. And so I began about 2 years ago. I was able to get to escape from Nigeria for about 10 days and go into hiding in a totally different environment where Nigeria became remote. I was actually able to sustain detachment from Nigeria. I could never have written it otherwise. So I was in this village in Dakar, and that's when I was able to break into it for about 10 days. Okay, then there was a break, and then I got another place in Ghana, in northern Ghana, again in a small Aburi, and so I wrote more about concentrated. After that, the rest was not difficult, just from time to time, I would write. And then when the COVID came and locked all of us down, well, I said, well, since I'm locked down, I might as well concentrate. So for about another 5 months, I was able to sit out and get it all out of my system.
What of the project to translate Death and the King's Horseman into a movie piece on Netflix? Is this what the future holds for the indomitable professor, not to mention his fans?
And also, I was also excited to find out that your play, Death and the King's Horseman, is being converted into a movie, and as early as 2 years ago, I think, that was being discussed, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Do you think that would be the future? Perhaps we'll see more of your plays coming on the big screen.
Well, I have absolutely nothing to do with the film beyond having written the play.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't even give you news about it. I think it's been secretly filmed somewhere, I imagine. And one thing which I was happy about was that it's a Nigerian venture, and went through many phases of disappointment and so on for the producers. But I think finally they're working on it right now. You know.
Well, that's as much as we were permitted to steal from the busy schedule of Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka. I trust you feel it was worth it. Well, I certainly did. As we said at the onset, it would always have been a case of too much to talk about and not enough time. Till the next opportunity to have yet another exclusive one-on-one, my name is Ekene saying thank you for watching this Arise exclusive.